let's do this.
I'm so excited.
I
I just
know.
love talking to you.
I love talking to you too.
It's
All
the
right,
best.
let's get you on here. Dun, dun, dun. Mhm. There you are. Go live. Okay. All right. Awesome. We are live.
Yay.
Okay, let me just make sure that my volume's good here and all that. Okay. All right. Okay, we are live. We'll give it a minute here for others to hop on. I'm live with my wonderful friend, psychic medium Jazmine, and we are concluding our discussion on healing mother wounds. So this is part two. If you haven't checked out part one, it is on my Facebook page, YouTube, and IGTV. So don't hesitate. It's a touchy subject, I know, for a lot of people, but make sure that you check it out because this is really, really good info. We're going to be talking about our own experiences a little bit more, and talking about what we have done thus far to heal. And I say thus far just simply because healing is a lifelong process. So, spoiler
Mhm.
alert, if you just started your healing journey, give yourself grace because there's always going to be something, right? You heal one
Mhm.
thing, you reveal another layer, there's going to be something else. But we came here for this, right?
Literally.
We came
Yep.
we came here for the learning experiences that we're having. So yeah, so
Mhm.
thank you all for joining or watching on the replay. I do know some people did tell me, Jasmine, that they're going to watch the replay. So yeah, so
Well,
it's all
hi
good.
guys. Hi.
All right. So we talked about a number of things from 2 weeks ago when we started to talk about just in a part of our healing journey was realizing that these certain things with our relationship with our moms triggered a lot. And
Mhm.
I know for myself, there was a lot that I didn't realize that were actually mother wounds until something showed up that it was I had to kind of go, why?
Mhm.
Why
Like,
am
where
I
did that come from?
why am I reacting this way?
Yep.
So can you think of an example? I can think of one off the top of my head, but I wanted to open it up to you first if you have one. Otherwise, we can jog your memory here. Is there something that even now or recently that you realized, whoa, that's something in my reactive state or my um, just how I respond to things is because of this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my whole being is a reactive state to what I have. And that just came to conclusion
Mhm.
recently. But I feel like for me, because there's different layers to it, right? There's maybe uglier pieces, maybe better, prettier pieces on the outside looking in. I feel like the ugliest part, I'm really snippy. Like really snippy. Like if I am
Mm.
tired or I am like done for the day, because I give so much that when like I said earlier, when I'm done, I'm done. And sometimes I can be really snippy or like really annoyed, and that's exactly how my mom treated me. Like my time wasn't worthy or I wasn't worth the time. And so I think I just picked up on the patterns for me is more of the biggest thing that comes to my mind, other than my self-body image. Because I'm a pretty confident person, but I know the self-body image came from my mom, and that's a huge connection
Mm.
for me that I realized because I'm very critical of myself in certain aspects, but it was only the aspects that she was critical of herself, which I found to be very
Gotcha.
interesting. But what
Yeah.
about for you?
So I think for me, and this is interesting because my husband's so great at pointing this out too, is I can withdraw,
Mm-hmm.
so withdrawal of either like affection or
Mm-hmm.
attention. I just kind of close the door
Mm-hmm.
when I'm like either really irritated, bothered by something, or something isn't going my way. you know.
Mm.
So it's that comes out as a result, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's, even though we're not consciously trying to reenact what
Mm-hmm.
our moms do, it becomes our default because that's what we've witnessed,
Just
right?
emotional manipulation. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it for me. I know
Hmm.
how to manipulate people to do what I need them to do for me.
Yeah.
Definitely
Interesting.
learned that from my mama.
Yeah. So, what would you say then that you have done, like, so when you have that awareness, do you feel like you have the awareness in real time, or do you feel
Oh,
like it's
yes.
kind of after the fact, or have you
No.
noticed a change, a shift in that as you've been healing?
It is 100% in real time, and I think I get more, but
Good.
that maybe that I think
Yeah.
affects me too, because I think so when you're experiencing this healing process, shame comes up a lot. And I haven't really dealt a lot with shame before really in my past that I
Hmm.
remember, and I'll feel it in the moment, and I think this is my healing process of I still blame myself versus what I was taught, and the shame affects me the most. So I think
Hmm.
I do recognize it in the moment, but then I deal with feelings of shame because I think because I know I should be better, and then you got to give yourself grace in that whole process.
Hmm. Yeah, the shame is a huge, it's a huge one. I think just because, looking at shame where that's all about how you think that there's just something wrong with you, right?
Exactly.
Hi Angie, thank you. So thank you for hopping on. So yeah, so when we think that there's automatically something wrong with us, it's really easy to for me especially to react. It's really interesting because my stepson asked me a question last night, and it triggered thoughts about my mother because he asked me, he goes, do you ever get embarrassed? And I said, not so much anymore. I said, I used to. And he goes, really? I said, oh, yeah, big time. When I was a teenager and in my early 20s, absolutely. And he goes, why? And I said, it really could have been anything. If someone pointed something out about what I was wearing that they were kind of either poking fun of, or, if I said I used to talk very, very softly. That's a whole throat
Mm-hmm.
chakra issue,
Mm-hmm.
because I was always afraid to speak up, and people would always ask me to
Mm-hmm.
repeat myself because they couldn't hear me, and then I would get embarrassed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or so it could have. I said it could have been anything, and it made me think about my mother because my mother used to say, "You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing me."
Oh.
Like if I just didn't show up a particular way or I didn't act a particular way, whatever. I can't even recall exactly what it is now, but she
Mm-hmm.
would say, you're an embarrassment. So it was like, yeah, and it's weird because at the time I would feel bad, but I didn't really realize to what degree that
Mm-hmm.
harmed my self-esteem and
Of
my own
course.
self-image, until
Yeah.
I realized, like in my 20s, like how I was like, why do I react so harshly around certain things? And
Mm-hmm.
of course, didn't really understand any of this until I started on my whole healing journey, and how much stemmed from her. But that was an example, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of where, for me, I had to learn to talk to myself so much more nicely,
Oh yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
how would you say, like, are there certain things that you have had to tell yourself, as a result, to kind of counteract? Did it almost kind of feel like her voice was that inner voice type
120%.
thing? Yeah.
So I now looking back understand the roles we played and how detached she was, but how attached that made me. So looking back, I really am her. Like my thoughts are her. Everything I almost feel and
Hmm.
think, pretty much. And my dad too, but he was a little bit less of an impact. She's the biggest one. So now what I do, and I think for me it is I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. Like my mom would always insinuate that I have like I'm an ugly person on the inside, never the outside. She was very proud of the outside, but I was an ugly person on the inside. And
Interesting.
so I think now, honestly, what I do, I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I did this last night. My man had to come in and check on me to make sure I was okay. I, the shower is like my peace time. So I turn on the shower, do my shower, but I turn on this song called Loving Me and I put it on repeat and I sing it to myself and I just tell myself that I am like worthy, I am beautiful. I'll look myself in the mirror, naked or clothed, and really look into my eyes
Wow.
and re-talk to myself, like reparent myself. I know I'm worthy and good enough, but that voice really does overpower sometimes
Mhm.
those feelings. And so like last night I was in the shower for probably 45 minutes just singing that song and loving myself and giving parenting myself to I'm inner child healing, I guess is what it's coming down to. Is that's what I'm doing, taking the time to give that little girl that
Mhm.
love that she needed.
Wow.
So that's the
That's
biggest thing.
actually really awesome. I
Thank you.
love I actually love that.
Thanks. You
That's a
should try it out.
great
It's
that's a
therapeutic.
great way. Well, it made me think of how years ago I used and I don't it was weird. I don't realize now or I didn't realize then until or recently what I was trying to do. When I get into the shower, I used to play out a dialogue. So I would talk to myself. I'd play out this conversation that I feel like I needed to express something that was
Yes.
on my mind. And then I would kind of pretend I was the other person, what they would say. And then I would respond because I was so bad at speaking up for
Yes.
myself that I had to do it
Same.
in the shower. So,
Same.
yeah, so I would have this dialogue back and forth, and my showers would last 45 minutes because I'm having
Yes.
this drawn out conversation in the shower. But
Mm-hmm.
it was so therapeutic, you know,
Mm-hmm.
at the time because there was no other way for me to practice, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't have the guts to actually have the actual conversation, but it was more of
Exactly.
like practice for me.
Exactly.
But that was all the whole, not being able to speak up, not feeling heard or seen when you're young.
120%. What's interesting, I want to just point out for those of you watching, what I just described is using water cleansing. Water is cleansing literally,
Hmm.
energetically. 2, mirror work. 3,
Hmm.
affirmations. 4, dancing and singing, which moves energy. You don't have to do it all at the same time. I'm a little crazy, but that's
Hmm.
all it is. It's not
Yeah.
the things that we want to do naturally if you're in tune with yourself are usually healing things. It comes more naturally if you just allow yourself to be a little weird. And I think that's what it comes down to. Everyone has this
Hmm.
routine, right? Sometimes you have to be weird and connected to yourself to naturally start your own healing process in the way that you work because we all work differently. Okay,
Hmm.
sorry.
No, you're spot on. That's great. And what you just said made me think about how energy is circulated. There's three different states of energy, but when it comes to circulating energy, especially when we have a lot of pent up emotions, things that
Mhm.
we've suppressed or swept under the rug, just remember that energy is moved through sound, breath, and movement. So that's why dancing and singing all at the same time is so healing.
Yay.
Why do you think people do it, right? Like that's a big reason why when I was younger, and I didn't realize this until recently either, loved dancing. I used to sing a lot and would go to concerts and clubs and stuff like that and just get
Mhm.
it out, right? It really
Yes.
wasn't about like hitting the club, even though like that was
Yes.
what I thought I was doing, but it was actually like therapy for me.
Literally,
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm. Love it. I still love to dance like on my own and sing in the car. Like, that's like my
Oh,
biggest
singing
thing.
in the car.
So,
Don't get me
yeah.
started. That is my moment.
Yes. It's like you're ready for the Rosalyn concert.
Literally. Literally. My favorite moments. Best place to heal is in the car.
Yes.
Anyone knows that. I love it.
So when you think about like some of the biggest, and not like I'm trying to relive trauma here, but when you think about some of like the biggest things that stood out to you about either growing up with her relationship
Mhm.
with her. Um, what kinds of things do you feel like kind of changed? Because we were just talking about this before we came on, that just kind of changed everything where it's like, you know what? It is time for me to step back. You know what? It is time for me to be my own person because
Mhm.
this is not healthy.
Yeah. So, obviously, I always feel like there's always an accumulation of things, but there's usually
Mhm.
right that head point where it's just kind of in your face, I guess, and you kind of are forced to make a decision. So I would say when I really started becoming aware and when I understood that one, she wasn't going to take accountability, but two, I was noticing she started being like really honestly mean to me, whether it was bullying me on TikTok, whether it was making my day about her, having comments about my man or our proposal, whatever it was. The moment she brought up my man, a huge shift happened for me, but I still wasn't ready to necessarily give it up. I took a big step back, but wasn't necessarily ready to give it up. So then the holidays are coming. So I start thinking, okay, I'm going to really work through these emotions and visit her during the holidays so the family can be together. Maybe we can have a good conversation. And then I found out that she texted my siblings and left me out of her will. And all you need is a social security number. You're our mom. I feel like you should have our social
You
security
have
number.
it somewhere.
You,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like you did that on purpose so I found out or know that I was left out. And I think for me, that's someone telling me where I stand in someone's life. So
Hmm.
obviously, she's my mother. So people can say, oh, she's your only mom. 120%. I kept that
Hmm.
in there for a very long time. But I
Yeah.
think when someone shows you where they stand in your life, it would be naive to disregard that red flag. And
Or not
I know,
believe it, right?
yeah, or not, but
Mhm.
like, or just put me in a position where I'm gonna have to feel like I need to earn your love back. And I spent my whole first 30 years of my life doing that. You don't deserve
Mhm.
me at this point. I know
Mhm.
who I am and what I'm worth. And if a relationship isn't going to be 50-50 ever, then no matter who it is, you don't deserve to be put in a position where you're continuously being hurt. So I think
Mhm.
the head for me was being left out of her will after one bad year of of healing, of taking my own time for the
Mhm.
first time. For the first time, I thought about me and I got punished for it. And that's a big
Mhm.
red flag for me in any relationship, period.
Mhm.
What was that for you? What was that like? I can't do it. I can't. I don't
It
want to.
it took a couple different things over a span of years. And I think that that was just because in a way my mom, both of my parents, but mostly my mom made me really dependent upon
Mhm,
her even though I was an adult. Like
mhm,
the way that I was brought up was very like my mom's like, I'll take care of it, I'll take care of it, but certain things she never taught me. So I would
yeah,
always have to defer back to her, right?
mhm,
Or if it came to money, like things, there's a whole dynamic with money, like I'll pay for this, but you do this.
mhm,
Or I paid for this, so look at what I did for you, you know? So yeah, so there's a big tie-in with that, which, I had to heal a lot of money things around that too. So, the first one, and it was interesting because I forgot about this for a while. When I was dating my ex, my parents were totally dead set against it because of race. So my ex is
mhm,
black, and I literally fought to be with him. And when they realized that I wasn't going to stop dating him and I was still living at my parents' house at the time, I had just gotten out of nursing school and was just starting my job and everything like that. So just beginning to earn money. And my mom, when ended up having an argument with my mom, I forgot exactly what happened, but she wanted me to stop dating him. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she came after me with a knife, and I ended up, yeah, she chased me with a knife, in the house. I ran into the garage and locked myself in my car and called the cops on her. And
Mm.
so, and it was after that I moved out briefly, moved in with another, she was kind of like my second mom, and I moved in with her for a while.
Mhm.
And then my parents were like, okay, fine, you know, because so what happened was we ended up getting engaged, told them we're getting married without you or not, you know, and so my parents were like, okay, fine, you know, just come back home and we'll pay for the wedding. So
Mm.
me, my naive 20-year-old something self was like, okay, you know, and so we got married and everything, and I mean, they still, it was more like they tolerated him, but they always had
Yeah.
something to say about him. You
Yeah.
know, and then I got pregnant, had, you know, had our son and everything. And, you know, and it was it's still, they did not care for him at all. And I was always in the middle.
Dang,
So that
yeah.
was one. I mean, so that was one thing. And then it was like when I decided to leave the religion that they raised me in, they basically were like, if you come back, then we'll be a family again. And I was like, so I'm not family now, right? And
Mhm.
then that was just, and I was like, that's it.
Yeah, that's a big, big
Hmm.
statement to say to your
Yeah,
daughter.
yeah.
It's so, and it rocks you to
Hmm.
the core, man.
Hmm.
So, how did that, what did you feel from that? What did you learn from that in your, how did you grow from that, I guess, at the end of the day?
So I had to, um, it took me, honestly, it did take me years. I had to understand where a lot of my anger was coming from, because I'm like, I know that I can heal this. I know that I can shift this, but how? Is there something about how I'm viewing this that maybe I can view it differently that can start to shift the energy around this where I can feel
Mhm.
better, right? I'm
Mhm.
not saying that they're not suffering. I'm not saying that they don't miss me. They do. My mom does miss me. I mean, she tells me that once in a while. She'll text me that. Sorry for my dogs. So,
Mhm.
um, so what I had to understand was that I had expectations of what a family should be like, of
Mhm.
how the relationship with my mom and both my parents, how it should be like.
Mhm.
And what had angered me so much was that even looking on Facebook, you know, especially around the holidays, because at that point I just started celebrating holidays because I grew up without
Mhm.
them. And I was like, all these happy people with generations together, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm like, what the fuck? Where's my family? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yep.
and it was interesting because my husband's parents were so accepting of me, you know, I absolutely love them to death. And here I was still kind of making myself an outsider when I would
Mhm.
see him and his parents. And I'm like, how did I get the short end of the stick?
Oh, I
Right?
totally
How,
get that.
yeah, like why me? Why me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what did I do? And so
Yeah.
had to, I had to see that I was looking at the lens of division and unfairness. Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining. That there was so many things that it's like I was looking for the things that were wrong.
Mhm.
And
Well, you didn't
so,
have.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I had to change expectations entirely around family, and I had to learn that I can choose my family. And then I had to, and then because here I am remarried and I have these in-laws who absolutely want to get to know me and love me, that I'm just like, I had to learn how to accept that, because I
Yeah.
was so used to being either criticized, not good enough, not accepted for some reason, that to actually
Yeah.
accept love was so foreign that
Yeah. I
I
can't wait for that day.
had girl, you know that you have it already.
My
You do.
in-laws do not like me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with your fiance and all the other, you know, your other friends and everything in your life,
Yeah.
right? It'll be, yeah. Trust
Yeah.
me, you get to create that.
Mm.
And and that was the thing. My husband had to point out to me. He was like, "You're the only one who's keeping yourself on the outside."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Damn it." Like why is it so hard for me? Why is it so hard for me to accept what I do have now? And
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was a big those were some of the biggest lessons because
Yeah.
I had to learn them one by one.
Of course. They take so long.
Mhm.
Of course.
So what have you learned up until now? So even though all this other stuff that you mentioned is fresh, what would you say you've learned about yourself up until now?
So I think I'm at this stage where I learned that I don't know who I am. And so that is a lot. So I feel like it's an opportunity to get to know who I am and align myself better. But I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned because it gives me more power. Like I get to actually detach. Like I'm not her, and I do get to create who I want to be. So, but I think like overall, other than that, is understanding that I have a hard time with acceptance, not forgiveness, because I can forgive a lot of things because I can understand why things happen. There's always a
Mhm.
pattern. Get it. Generational shit. Get it. I
Yeah.
think it's hard for me to accept it sometimes, especially when it may not be validated by that person, maybe kind of a
Mhm.
situation. So I think I just learned more about myself versus and where I'm at in my journey. That's where I'm at.
You know what? I really like that answer.
Oh, thanks.
That because people always want to think that they know who they are, and I'm not saying that. I'm not denying if anyone ever believes that, and because that's fine. You can certainly know certain things about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but do you know everything?
Really, like,
You
do you
know?
really
Yeah.
go deep?
And
And yeah,
that's a tough one. And
yeah.
usually when you kind of come either to a crisis point or a particular rock bottom, do you kind of go, okay, maybe I didn't really know myself. Or I remember along my healing journey, I realized there was a point that I just really didn't like myself,
Oh
you
yeah.
know? And then
Oh
so then that's kind of where I went, okay, well then maybe I don't know who I am. But what's the beautiful part when you are in your healing journey is that you get to create, and it doesn't matter where you start. You
mm-hmm.
get to, because we're constantly evolving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I met my 20-year-old self now, I probably wouldn't be able to stand her.
No,
you know?
probably not. No.
so, so the thing is, what's great is that you can start anywhere and go from there and say, okay, I am going to create who I'm going to be in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
just do it one step at a time. I like how you always say baby
Literally,
steps,
baby steps,
right?
man. Yep. I started
So,
with what I can control right now. So my face and my hair. I came to a conclusion the other day. I put on a full face of makeup to take photos, and I just felt so ugly and not myself. And then I took off my makeup. I was like, okay, this is better. So I found out I like myself more natural. I do like my long hair. So two steps. Next steps, I got to get to the clothing. That's going to be a hard one, finding my style. When you don't know who you are, finding your style is really fucking hard. But I'm doing a lot of, I think, outer work to help me with the inner work. Because I obviously, like, I know my core. Like, I know I'm kind and I know I want to give.
mhm.
But really outside of, but that's a codependency thing too. That's something we were taught growing up. So is it really me? I don't.
Jessica says she said she was going to say baby steps, and she does
Baby steps
resonate.
always.
Yeah,
Baby
she's resonating
steps.
with what we're saying. Yeah.
Baby steps are the key to life. The
Hmm.
key to life. And I tell people that all the time, especially because in the healing journey, a lot of people think it's about like sprinting or it's about being a professional at something. And I'm like, no, bro, everyone starts from somewhere. You just have to start and keep trying, and that's what pays off, nothing else.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
that's very, very true. So I know, so along my journey, I went to therapy.
Hmm.
Um, one of the one of the awesome things that I learned when I did, so after I was hospitalized, I did group therapy. And one of the books that I read on cognitive behavioral therapy was
Hmm.
this technique, and I forgot what it was called, but um, essentially what you do is you take a particular thought that you have. So let's say it's, I'm not, or something that you're kind of harping on. So, okay, so I have a terrible relationship with my mom, and you kind of go down below that, and you kind of go, okay, so why is that bad?
Hmm.
Right? And it's like, okay, well, because, we're supposed to, we're supposed to get along together.
Hmm.
Okay. So why is that bad that you're not? So
Hmm.
you kind of it's almost like you're tracing backwards to
Yeah.
to the actual subconscious thing that's going on behind the belief that you have. And it's really interesting I did this whole entire thick ass book of
Hmm.
exercises, doing it time and over one thing after another. And it's very interesting because just about everyone has the same types of core subconscious beliefs. I'm not
Hmm.
worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm
Hmm.
not deserving, and because when I work with my clients, a lot of times we're clearing through these things. And so I realized that I was like, wow, majority of people's issues kind of stems back to the same set of things.
Yep. Hmm.
And they filter out in all these different ways. It's quite interesting.
Childhood is crazy. The psyche is crazy, and energy is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, all of it
It's,
is.
it really is. So, when it comes to your mother wound, what made you decide the connection was worth continuing to try to pursue?
So for a long period of time, I'd probably say I didn't pursue a goddamn thing. Like I was fine. I was fine just like being away. But the thing is, just because you're away from the person, you might gain a sense of peace just because they're not in your physical space and they're not totally communicating with you all the time, right? But you will find that in any other relationship interaction, even my mom wound stuff came up in business for me. So it was like you can't, it's like you can't get far enough, right?
Hmm.
So the thing was, I knew from just doing energy work, learning energy work and healing myself and working with people, is that even if I never expected to have a very consistent, persistent type of relationship with my mother, I knew that it was always going to kind of be from afar.
Hmm.
Um, that I had to still forgive. So, and this was a big, trust me, this is a big thing, because I knew that there would come a time. My parents are in their late 70s, that I was kind of getting concerned because I would have other relatives text me, your mom went to the hospital, your mom's having this
Hmm.
procedure, and and they're like, just say hi. So I would do that, right? Because it's not that I don't care at all. I do, but I care with my barriers up. Okay.
Yeah.
I care with my boundaries up. And so, and I also knew for my own sake and my own relationship with my children that I had to continue to heal it on a different level. And so I was doing it for the sake of not perpetuating a cycle, which
Hmm.
when I worked with my mentor's mentor, he actually identified, and this was I know it's not scary shit. It's not. It was more like amazing shit where he was like, there is a pattern of separation with parents and like moms and their kids in your family. And I was like, holy shit, totally true. My mom to her mom, my mom to mine, and mine to my son.
Ah, yeah.
I was like, that is a pattern. So
Wow.
I was like, I need to work on forgiveness. And so that's what I worked on. I pulled this up. I'm going to read this for everyone. Okay. I actually got this from another healer friend, but I just want people to listen to this. And I actually just shared this today in my energy healing program that I have for the group because the clearing this morning was on boundaries. And forgiveness and boundaries go hand in hand. So I'm going to read this, okay? And let me know what you think of it, Jazmine. I forgive everyone who has ever hurt or harmed me, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other lifetime, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I offer them grace. I ask forgiveness for everything I have ever done to hurt or harm another, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other lifetime, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I ask for grace. I forgive myself for everything I have ever done to hurt or harm another, consciously or unconsciously, in this lifetime or any other lifetime, in this universe, dimension, plane, or level of existence, or any other. I accept grace.
I like
And
it.
I know, I remember when I had this sent to me, and I was like sobbing in tears, saying this out loud, like, just and so I repeated it again and again until like the intensity of the emotion started to decrease on its own.
Mhm.
Because when we say things like this, that's electrical energy that's being sent out, right? So we're releasing that, and also all that pent up emotion, which is
Mhm.
our feelings are what's magnetic, right? And if we're
Mhm.
feeling anger, we're going to draw more of those similar type of angry experiences. And I didn't want that anymore, with her in particular, and how she
That
just
makes sense.
kept showing up in different ways. And
Mhm.
so yeah, forgiveness was a huge thing, but I'm going to be honest, it took me a really long time to even get there. There's a lot of times where, even my husband would be like, "Should talk to your mom?" I'd be like, "No." Are you going to? You're going to say hi? No. Like, like,
Yeah, like why?
why? Right. But but he was like, I'm just telling you. He's like, there's not a lot of time left. And so that was something that I really had to kind of check in. Like, is it my ego? Is there fear? What is it exactly that is making me resist?
You
Because,
know what?
yeah, go ahead.
I'm not gonna lie, it's so interesting. I think I'm the complete opposite. I think for me, the forgiveness part, a breeze. I always have had compassion for her journey and her story, and I always understood what my part in that was. I think for me, it's a human thing. I think you're my mother, and you're 100% we're supposed to be in my life. But I also think this is a very individual spiritual journey. And once your lesson is done, if there's not more to, I just, it's not, it's the, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but the forgiveness part is easy. It's allowing you back in that I
Gotcha.
wouldn't
Hmm.
really, I don't, society tells me that's your mom, DNA tells me that's your mom, and you can feel connected. But at the same time, if you've never really
Hmm.
had a connection, then there's nothing to plug back in. Does that make sense?
Yes. I totally get that. So I can appreciate what you're saying, because I think for me, that was the hard part, thinking, oh, if I forgave, then it's all going to be, like she's going to be back in my life and trying to tell me what to
Yeah.
do. And you know what I mean? And I just was like, I just don't want to have that. Right. So the last major conversation I had with my mother, because so keep in mind, ever since like 2014, when I moved out to Texas, and I set my boundaries, we were estranged from that point on. She's never met my stepson. She's never come out here. I mean, we just have never seen each other, right? And our conversations up until this conversation I'm going to tell you about in May was everything was very superficial. Like, and I can't stand superficial conversations. They
Yeah.
drive me up the wall. So, in this conversation, I basically told her all the different things that I had to heal from our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and how I had hurt, and how I love my life now. And then it all obviously gravitated towards religion because that's where she was going to take it, and I knew that I was
Mm-hmm.
expecting that. And I told her that I, never going to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And she, at some point, I forget exactly when in the conversation, but she's like, okay, I don't want to hear anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I said, I'm not trying to make you angry or hurt you or anything. I just think that you should know these things. And, and I love how I use my experiences that I've had to help others now. I said, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
do. I'm like, it's exactly the stuff that grandma used to do, because
Mm-hmm.
grandma was a healer. So it was just really interesting because she still kind of views me as kind of going in some wrong type of direction. But
Mm-hmm.
what was so great was that for the first time ever, I felt a lot of gratitude during the conversation where I was able to stand my ground. She was able to hear me, acknowledge it. I mean, even though it wasn't in the way that I had hoped, but it was in this way that I had this conversation where I was able to speak what I needed to say. And I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
my dog is moving my camera.
Oh,
So,
I barely even
anyway,
noticed.
really? Okay, because I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, and I'm telling you again, this took from 2014 up until 2021 for that conversation to happen. And healing your relationship with your mom's always going to be different, but just know that you will, as long as you're actively working on your own self, you'll be able to face your mom,
But
so
my
there
thing
are
is,
needs to be.
why do I want to? I think that, like, why does
Mhm.
someone want to? I don't want to. I
And I
don't
get it.
know.
I get it. So here's one of the markers of healing that when I started working on myself, that became important to me. And I'm talking just me. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to be important to you or anybody else, but it stuck out to me because I was like, I want to get to that level of just not having that degree of pain anymore. And so this was I studied Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and that's what kind of led me on the trajectory of healing. And he goes, if you've ever had anyone betray you, hurt you, whatever the case may be, he goes, and you do your work on yourself, where you are so in love with your life, where you are in such a great place that you're just filled with that feeling. He goes, that person can come back around. He goes, even if they leave you, even if they abandon you, whatever the case may be, if they come back around and in any way, and maybe perhaps they might even say, um, I'm sorry. Okay, not that I got that, but they might even say that. He is like, you could be that person where it doesn't matter anymore. Like that pain, like it doesn't even touch you. He is like, you're so filled with the own love of your own life that you're just like, hey, it's okay. It's all right. And I think the reason why that stood out to me was like, I couldn't even imagine doing that at that time when I heard this. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, if people are able to do that, if people are able um, to experience such atrocities like in other countries where there's genocide, where there's all kinds of shitty things going on, and they can still forgive a person who hurt them. I thought, man, why can't I get to this place of just being able to be okay with them? I'm not saying we have to be super close, but I just want to get to that point where when I think about her, I don't feel that way anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
that's some deep shit right there. So that's why I
Yeah.
was like, for me, that kind of became a marker that I wanted to personally get to.
That
And
makes sense.
not everyone has to, right? Yeah, exactly, Jessica, which is the hardest, loving yourself first. You do. You have to get to this point of loving yourself and your life so much that nothing else can touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't just yeah, I just don't see, if I love my life so much, why would I? And I understand
Mhm.
like that wouldn't affect it anymore, but whether it
Mhm.
affects me or not, it's still the same. There's still never, no.
Yeah.
I think that's all I can say. Like
Yeah.
here's the thing, because I know my worth, and it's not a worthy thing, obviously it's
Mhm.
not, right? But I feel no matter who you are, it is special to be around me because I give so much. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would want to be in any type of relationship where that's ever like still out of balance, even if I did forgive that person, or even if I did accept it. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess and I think like what I heard the other day is sometimes we have to re-trigger ourselves to continue to heal. And I think that's what a lot of people like to do with keeping their mothers around, is prove to themselves sometimes, like, hey, I don't, like, almost like prove it to themselves in a sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, but for me, I don't think I don't know. It's very interesting how the mother dynamic works, because it is such a DNA connection that you're automatically drawn back to that person. You would think you would want to take that opportunity.
Mhm.
But then I think sometimes I look at it from more of I can, I guess, separate it from a mom to a spiritual to spiritual, and that lesson is done for me. Does that make sense?
Yep. It
Very
totally it
interesting.
totally does. And I can totally appreciate everything that you're saying. So, and that's why I say everyone's going to be a little bit different with their own dynamic with their mother. And I know of my first teacher, she doesn't communicate with her mom at all, right? So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can appreciate that. If someone is that toxic or that intentionally hurtful, then I would never advocate to subject yourself to any kind of abuse,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it depends. Is the person really abusing you? Like at this point, my
Mm-hmm.
mom is not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before, yes, but not
Mm-hmm.
not any longer. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that I can always step back, right? So
Mm-hmm.
and so it's different. What
But
you're going through right now with your mom is still very active
and
with
it's
what
always a
she's doing.
revolving boundary.
Exactly.
I just think that
Mhm.
I'm pretty stubborn ass bitch. So if you're gonna fuck with my happiness in any ounce,
Yeah.
or if you're gonna, it's not even do that, because yeah, you're right. You do have to have that power to where no one can do that. But if you're gonna even try, then I can't. I can't.
Mhm.
I can't.
And I can totally appreciate that. Like my husband's very, very different when he comes to boundaries. He lays them down firmly and everyone, and their mama knows about it. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's really good at that. With me, I've had to learn how to even create them and enforce them because I was so scared. I
Mm-hmm.
did not grow up with any.
Mm-hmm.
So laying this down with both my mom and my dad, it was very, very difficult because I felt, because of that, remember I told you that whole dependency thing. I was very,
Oh
very
yeah.
dependent and just plain old dependent upon them, that enforcing that was very, very difficult. But it was ultimately the healthiest thing I could do because it allowed me to go onto this healing journey
Mm-hmm.
without the extra stress on
Mm-hmm.
top of that.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah. So any other lessons you would say that you learned? here with
Um, thus far is really just at the end of the day, everything comes back to loving yourself. And like, that's why I danced in the shower the other day and gave my, when you have a mother wound, you have to reparent yourself and you have to be conscious of that. And you have to be conscious of your thoughts and you have to talk back to those thoughts. You have to kind of get a little weird, okay? Because it's a lot going on up there and in here. You got to talk yourself out. So essentially, I think what the biggest thing I learned is one, just because you were raised this way doesn't mean you have to stay this way. Damn, that was good rhyme. Two,
yeah.
two, just like everything else, it comes down to loving yourself. So my new mission, if anyone knows me, at 18 years old, I decided my happiness was number one. And that's when I started getting really good at doing what I want, when I want, how I want. New mission. Obviously, happiness is still, but it's the self-love. It's the deep, you guys, this time you see me next year, I'm going to be so different. You're going to be like, who is this fucking girl?
Love it.
But that's really, everything comes back to self-love, making sure you have everything within you and understanding that and knowing that and using those tools and creating your own life that you want to live. And that's what I've learned. The biggest lesson always comes back to fucking aligning with your fucking self. It's so annoying because you think you know and then you don't know. I need a beer.
It's all work in progress, right? Yep. So yep. I remember the day I took lipstick and I put the affirmations all over, like in our other house, like it was just glass, a lot of glass, and I wrote, I love you, you're awesome, you're this, you're that. And my husband walks in, he's like, he's like,
yeah, okay.
He's like, what's going on here? And I was like, I need to read this. Yeah. I needed the constant. I had sticky notes everywhere, like all of that. So whatever it is that you need to reinforce, there's a million and one ways to do it. A million and one ways to reinforce, a million and ways to let go. And just remember that, feel into your body what is going to work for you.
And everyone has to understand, one of the first processes to healing your mother wound is going through the grief process. It's one of the first processes. You have to,
oh my gosh,
you have to experience grief, and the more you try to fight against it, the harder it's going to be for you. So go be sad, go be mad, go be in denial, but not for too long. Go experience your whole grief, and then that's when more of the magic will happen. But you can't skip that part.
That's a great point.
And it's just, that's very important, because you're going to be grieving a lot. Like everything.
Yeah, I didn't, looking back, I probably didn't realize that that's what was happening when I was in my depression. Mm-hmm. There was grieving going on for a number of reasons, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. You lose a lot.
You lose a lot, but that is necessary to make room for what it is that you're going to be creating in your future. And it's always, I promise you, always better and more than what you would have expected. So give yourself that opportunity by choosing to heal. Forgive yourself. If you don't want to forgive your mom, give yourself time. Just but you need to forgive yourself too. Right. So that's all really, really huge. So go back and listen to that affirmation. If you like it, you can jot it down and say it to yourself. But that was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
I just have so much sympathy that it makes me angry. So I have too much sympathy that it just, I think, when you're so aware for so long and you have to be the bigger person all the time, and forgiveness is like so easy for you because you understand why, you still, that's just another way of almost invalidating your own emotions in a sense. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I think that's what I struggle with the most. Like, I forgive, but then what about me? Does that make sense? Forgiving doesn't take away, I don't think, that
Yeah.
I still have to take care of myself, I guess. I don't know. I don't
Which
know how
is
to
which
explain
is
it.
true. Which is true. I mean, forgiveness is really about giving yourself peace more than anything,
Mhm.
right? Like I'm not going to
Mhm.
hold on to this and
Exactly.
stay in this, you know, gross spot in my life
Yeah.
because of this relationship, right? But yeah, the
Mhm.
self, all that other stuff, that's really all up to the individual person. We have to take
Mhm.
responsibility after that. So we've been hurt, victimized, betrayed, abandoned, neglected. And then it's like, okay, now I got to go, you know, pick all of this up and take care of it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but
But
that's what we need
but
to do.
please feel emotions. I think a lot of us try to be too strong or try to put a persona that, oh, I'm wise enough to move past this without feeling anything. I need you to know that's all bullshit, and you have to feel those emotions, or they will stay there. And that's what we don't want. We don't want, experiences are going to happen. This was part of the plan for a reason, but we don't have to live in it forever. So
Yeah.
understand that at least.
Nope, that's completely correct. So there's going to be, when you're healing your mother, there's going to be a million and one types of emotions that come up. Don't be surprised if rage comes up, right? All that anger. But
Hmm.
that is, remember that all your emotions are messengers that are telling you now what you need to do. If
Hmm.
you've been angry, that usually means that your boundaries have been crossed at some point and
Hmm.
probably repeatedly. And so that's just telling you, as you're letting go of the anger, right? Because we want to decrease our recovery period or refractory period over
Hmm.
time, is that that's telling you, okay, I'm going to enforce my boundaries now, whether or not I like it. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay angry.
Hmm. Listen
Right.
to yourselves.
Exactly. So I hope that this has been helpful to everyone. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Sharing that you can relate and all of that. We appreciate that, and thank you for joining or watching on the replay. We'd love for you to continue to share your thoughts or have any questions. If there's anything in particular you want to hear us talk about in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. So make sure you're following Jazmine on her social media too. She also does readings and stuff on her pages, and we will do a joint reading again sometime in the near future too. We've had people messaging me requesting that. So when are you going to do
Love
that
it. Love it. Of course, I love it.
Yes. So, but yeah, so we'll check back on our social media. I will usually post on here what we're going to be talking about next. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. So,
Always, always.
yeah. So, every 2 weeks we're on. Okay. But we thank you so much. Love you guys. And we'll see you again next time.
Bye. Love it.